The text arrived between helping customers at my boutique. I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already emptied our joint account. Haha. My hands didn't shake as I read it. My voice didn't waver as I helped Mrs. Peterson pick out a scarf. The only sign that my husband of 12 years had just nuked our marriage via text was a slight tightening around my eyes. I waited until Mrs. Peterson left, her purchase wrapped in our signature silver paper, before typing my response. Good luck. My name is Claire. I had just received one of the most callous goodbyes in history, but while Mark was probably gloating over his grand exit, imagining me in tears over his betrayal, I was calmly locking up my boutique for the day. The signs had been there for months, the late nights at work that never matched his paid deposits, the sudden password changes on his phone, the way he'd started going to the gym religiously, buying new clothes, trying desperately to recapture his youth. 3 months ago, I had found a receipt for dinner for 2 at an expensive restaurant on a night he claimed to be working late. That same evening, I opened a separate bank account at a different bank. A week later, when he casually suggested combining our accounts to simplify things, I agreed cheerfully, moving my personal savings to the new account. The joint account he just emptied contained exactly enough to keep him from noticing 2 months' worth of regular deposits. The rest was tucked away safely, along with detailed records of every suspicious transaction he'd made over the past year. My phone buzzed again. Don't bother begging. Melissa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later. Melissa, the new receptionist at his office. I'd met her at the company Christmas party, watched her laugh too loudly at Mark's jokes, noticed how she touched his arm when she thought no one was looking. She was young enough to be his daughter, naive enough to think she was special. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my lawyer, the one I'd consulted 2 months ago when I'd discovered those hotel charges on our credit card statement. It's time, I said simply. He just made his move. The papers are ready, she replied. File them first thing tomorrow. No rush. Let him think he's won first. Another text from Mark. I know this must be hard for you. You're not getting any younger after all. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy. My little shop, the successful boutique I'd built from scratch, the one that generated more income than his middle management position, the one whose profits I had carefully kept separate from our joint finances. I smiled, thinking of the certified letters that would greet him in Miami, let him enjoy his moment of triumph. That evening, I stayed in our house, my house, inherited from my grandmother and kept in my name despite Mark's repeated suggestions to add him to the deed. Another lucky instinct that had paid off. While organising paperwork my lawyer would need, I found our wedding album. Mark looked so different then, before his midlife crisis had turned him into a caricature of himself. Now he wore shirts too tight for his softening middle, tried too hard to connect with the 20-somethings at his office, using slang that sounded ridiculous coming from a 45-year-old man. My phone buzzed with texts from him, each one more condescending than the last. Melissa understands me in ways you never could. You'll be fine. Maybe you'll find someone more your own age. Already told my family, they agree. We grew apart. It's nobody's fault, really. I screenshotted each message, adding them to my evidence folder. Let him dig his hole deeper. My lawyer would love his casual admission of premeditation, his gleeful announcement about emptying our account. The last text caught my attention. BTW, I used the joint card to book our flights and hotel. Consider it my parting gift. LOL. Perfect. I called the credit card company. Mrs. Harrison speaking. I need to report fraudulent charges and cancel a card immediately. Certainly, ma'am. Can you identify the charges? 2 first-class tickets to Miami booked today. Hotel charges at the Royal Palm. Remove my husband as an authorized user immediately. Do you have documentation of the fraud? Yes. Text messages from my husband admitting he used our joint card to book travel with his girlfriend after emptying our bank account. I'll forward them. The representative's professional tone couldn't quite hide her satisfaction as she cancelled the charges. Mark and Melissa would arrive at the airport tomorrow to find their tickets invalidated, their hotel reservation cancelled. My phone buzzed again. Don't worry about the house. I'll let you stay there until you find something smaller. I actually laughed out loud. Did he really think he had any claim to my grandmother's house? Had his ego grown so large that he'd forgotten whose name was on the deed? Another buzz. I know the shop means a lot to you. We can work out a fair payment for your half. My half. Of the business I'd built, funded and grown. Gran had helped me start, yes, but I'd turned it into a profitable venture long before he complained about my long hours and called it my hobby. I poured a glass of wine, the good stuff I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. Tomorrow Mark would learn some hard truths about property law and separate assets. Tonight I would enjoy the quiet and plan my next chapter. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about confrontation or anger, it's about preparation, patience and foresight. Every late-night deposit, every secret receipt, every small instinct to protect myself quietly over months culminated in this moment. While he thought he was orchestrating the grand finale of our marriage, I was writing my own story, careful, calculated, and completely in my control. Revenge, I realized, was not in striking back. It was in thriving while he faltered. Morning brought a flurry of increasingly angry texts from Mark. What the heck did you do to our credit card? The airline won't honor our tickets. The hotel cancelled our reservation. Answer me. I silenced my phone and headed to the boutique. Friday was always our busiest day, and I had a new shipment of designer handbags to unpack. Life goes on, even when your husband runs off with a receptionist young enough to be his daughter. Around noon, his mother called. Claire, dear. Mark told us everything about how controlling you've been, how you drove him away. I put her on speaker while arranging a window display. Did he mention emptying our joint account and charging tickets for him and his girlfriend on our credit card? Silence. Then, well, he said you left him no choice, that you've been cold and distant. Barbara, I have his texts. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he bragged about taking our money, or maybe the one where he mocked my age? Another pause. He did seem a bit cruel, she admitted. I told him that text message was inappropriate, I said. I appreciate the call, Barbara, but my lawyer has advised minimal contact with Mark's family during the proceedings. Goodbye. By late afternoon, Mark's sister Amanda was spreading family gossip through mutual friends. Apparently, Mark and Melissa were stuck at a budget motel near the airport, their Miami dreams temporarily derailed. He tried using personal credit cards, but those had been maxed out for months, another red flag I had noted. My lawyer called with an update. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Monday. Given his admission of emptying the joint account and the documented credit card fraud, we're in a strong position to freeze all remaining assets. Has he been served yet? Not yet, but he'll get the papers at his new motel address. Speaking of which, his girlfriend's social media is providing excellent evidence. She's been posting about their adventure all day, including some choice comments about you. I smiled, thinking of my own documentation, a year's worth of suspicious charges, hotel receipts, text messages that proved premeditation. Mark had been so focused on his grand escape that he never considered I might be watching, waiting, preparing. My phone buzzed again. You think you're so smart, but I made copies of all the boutique's financial records. Half that business is mine. I forwarded the text to my lawyer, adding it to the growing file of Mark's mistakes. Let him learn the hard way about separate assets and business ownership. Monday arrived. The courthouse was buzzing with activity. Mark showed up in his new young wardrobe, designer jeans too tight for his age, a blazer that screamed midlife crisis. Melissa waited outside, her youth painfully obvious under the harsh courthouse lighting. My lawyer presented our evidence methodically. RK's gleeful text about emptying our account, his credit card fraud, his documented history of hidden expenses, each piece carefully collected over months of quiet observation. Your Honor, Mark's hastily hired lawyer began, my client admits to some rash decisions, but Mrs. Harrison's actions have been vindictive and calculating. Calculating? My lawyer interrupted. You mean prudent. My client protected her separate assets and maintained detailed records of her husband's suspicious behavior. That's not vindictive, that's smart business. The judge reviewed my documentation, the separate property deed to the house, the boutique's corporation papers in my name only, the careful separation of business and personal finances that Mark had always mocked. Mr. Harrison, the judge addressed him directly, you admitted via text message to deliberately emptying a joint account and using shared credit cards to fund a trip with your girlfriend. Do you deny this? Mark shifted uncomfortably. I was just trying to make a clean break. By committing financial fraud. The judge raised an eyebrow. And now you're claiming rights to property that documentation shows is clearly separate from marital assets. Mark's lawyer tried again. My client is entitled to the business. He contributed to its growth. Like these text messages belittling Mrs. Harrison's business as a little shop, or these social media posts calling it her hobby, my lawyer shot back. She maintained strict separation of business and personal finances throughout. We have documentation of every penny invested and earned. I watched Mark's face as reality sank in. He thought this would be easy, empty our accounts, run off with his girlfriend, maybe claim half my business in the divorce. He had never bothered to understand my insistence on keeping things separate. He had mocked my careful bookkeeping as obsessive. The court finds sufficient evidence of financial misconduct, the judge announced. All shared assets are frozen pending final dissolution. Mr. Harrison is ordered to return any funds removed from joint accounts within 24 hours. But that money's gone, Mark protested. Then I suggest you find a way to replace it, the judge replied, cutting him off. Outside the courthouse, I heard Melissa asking Mark about their Miami plans. His response was lost in the sound of my heels clicking confidently across the marble floor as I headed back to the business he had never understood or respected. The next few weeks brought increasingly desperate moves from Mark. He tried claiming the boutique had been his idea. He remembered investing money in its early days. He even suggested he'd been my business partner all along, claims quickly disproven by my meticulous records. Mark's family started reaching out. Their tone was markedly different from their initial accusations. We had no idea, Amanda admitted during an unexpected visit to the boutique. He played the victim so well. Watching how he acted afterward, I'm ashamed we ever believed him. My lawyer kept me updated on Mark's continued attempts to challenge the divorce settlement. Each petition was denied. His claim of unfair distribution was dismissed based on his own documented actions. He even tried arguing that his text about emptying the account was just a joke. The boutique's success brought unexpected validation. Local business magazines wanted to feature my story, not as a scorned wife, but as a savvy businesswoman who protected her interests. Young entrepreneurs asked for advice about keeping business and personal finances separate. The best protection is preparation, I told one young woman who reminded me of Melissa. And always trust your instincts. Mark's mother called occasionally, usually after he had done something particularly self-destructive. Online gambling, pyramid schemes, desperate attempts to rebuild his life. I listened politely but maintained my distance. Their family drama wasn't my problem anymore. The boutique thrived, ironically boosted by local gossip about my situation. Women came in specifically to show support, often leaving with far more than they planned to buy. My phone buzzed occasionally with texts from Mark, his tone swinging between anger and manipulation. You've ruined everything. You'll regret being so vindictive. Can't we work something out? That business would be nothing without my support. I forwarded each message to my lawyer without responding, let him dig his hole deeper. Months of careful observation, preparation, and documentation had transformed betrayal into opportunity. While Mark thought he was orchestrating chaos, I was orchestrating control. Every text, every fraudulent transaction, every calculated move he made was quietly building my case, strengthening my resolve, and validating my foresight. The lesson was clear. Revenge doesn't need to be loud or vengeful. It lives in patience, in planning, and in the quiet certainty of being prepared. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, my boutique had expanded to a second location. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Mark struggled to rebuild his life, the little shop he had dismissed was thriving. I'd hired 3 new employees and launched an online store, gaining traction nationally. News of Mark's situation trickled back through mutual acquaintances. He tried dating apps but found women his age uninterested in a middle-aged man living with his parents. Younger women, having heard about his history via office gossip, steered clear. Melissa, it seemed, had warned her friends. His career suffered too. HR launched an investigation into his relationship with a subordinate, resulting in a formal reprimand, and the promotion he expected went to someone else. I was surprised when his sister visited the store, but her presence spoke volumes about how thoroughly Mark had alienated his own family. "I know we didn't support you at first," she admitted, running her fingers over a silk scarf. "He played the victim so well, but watching how he handled everything afterward, I'm ashamed we ever believed him." My lawyer kept me updated on Mark's continued attempts to challenge the divorce settlement. Each petition was denied. His claim of unfair distribution was dismissed based on evidence of his own actions. He even tried arguing that his text about emptying the account was just a joke. The boutique's success brought unexpected validation. Local business magazines wanted to feature my story, not as a scorned wife, but as a savvy businesswoman who protected her assets. Young entrepreneurs often asked for advice about keeping business and personal finances separate. "The best protection is preparation," I told one young woman who reminded me of Melissa, "and always trust your instincts." Mark's mother called occasionally, usually after he had done something self-destructive: online gambling, pyramid schemes, desperate attempts to regain his former lifestyle. I listened politely but maintained my distance. Their family drama wasn't my problem anymore. The boutique thrived, ironically boosted by local gossip. Women came in specifically to show support, often leaving with more than they planned to buy. Mark's texts still buzzed occasionally, swinging between anger and manipulation. "You've ruined everything. You'll regret being so vindictive. Can't we work something out?" That business would be nothing without my support. I forwarded each to my lawyer without responding, let him dig his hole deeper. Months of careful observation, preparation, and documentation had turned betrayal into opportunity. Every calculated move Mark made, every boastful text, every misstep quietly strengthened my position. Revenge didn't need to be loud or public. It was in patience, foresight, and control. While he imagined chaos, I built security, prosperity, and independence. The lesson endured. Empowerment grows not from reacting, but from observing, preparing, and knowing your own worth. 1 year after the divorce, I hosted the grand opening of my third boutique. Media coverage focused not on the failed marriage, but on the success of a determined entrepreneur. My story had evolved from cautionary tale to inspiration. Young women approached for advice. I emphasized careful separation of business and personal finances and trusting instinct. Melissa walked in unexpectedly. She looked younger than ever, or maybe I just felt stronger. "I owe you an apology," she whispered. I believed everything he told me about how cold and controlling you were. Then I watched him try the same manipulation on me. I smiled while arranging designer sunglasses. "Those weren't his dreams, Melissa. They were escapes. There's a difference." She nodded. "I understand now. I'm dating someone my own age. We're building something real." After she left, my assistant manager whispered, "Was that?" "Just another woman who learned the same lesson I did," I replied. The boutique had become more than a business. It was a symbol of independence, resilience, and preparation. Each new location reinforced the power of protecting your assets and trusting your instincts. At the 5-year anniversary of the original boutique, I addressed employees and loyal customers. The space had transformed from a single shop into the flagship of a thriving business empire. Mark's mother attended, though I hadn't invited her. "I saw Mark yesterday," she said quietly. He was talking about the life he could have had. He still doesn't understand that he didn't lose everything in the divorce. He threw it away." I thought about his cruel text, his casual assumption that I would crumble without him. Instead of despair, I'd built something stronger. Every new boutique location was a testament to what women could achieve when they refused to dim their light for insecure men. A young saleswoman, coincidentally named Melissa, asked a question about the inventory system. As I explained, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. I saw not a woman getting older, but one growing wiser, stronger, and more successful. Mark's cruel text had meant to be an ending. Instead, it was a beginning, not just for me, but for every woman who realized she deserved better than someone else's midlife crisis.